We begin tonight with the desperate search for Nancy Guthrie, with a second ransom deadline just hours away. The case has captivated the nation, but so far confounded authorities. This weekend, Savannah Guthrie and her siblings issued another anguished video pleading for their mother's return.
Think about it. If the goal is to keep Nancy Guthrie alive to ensure that the kidnappers can collect a ransom, why did the kidnappers leave her medication behind? Let's go to USA Today. She is in need of medication, daily medication, Sheriff Nana said on Thursday. We also know that this is day 4 or 5. Well, by now we are at day 9. And we don't know that she's getting her medication. That could in itself prove fatal.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear. Thoughts build up until I can't hear. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Now, we don't know if Nancy's getting her medication, but at the moment it seems as though she isn't. And it wasn't as though they were in and out in a rush. According to digital timestamps, the abductor was at the premises for 41 minutes. Not 5 minutes, not 10, not 20, 41 minutes. That's more than enough time to take her meds. This also raises another question. Why did the kidnappers stay so long inside her home? Well, according to Fox News, former DC homicide detective Ted Williams argued that the length of time is what really raises red flags. If you are a crook and you want to burglarize a place, you're going to get in there and get the hell out, Detectives Williams said on Saturday in America, but they stayed in 41 minutes. Williams said spending 41 minutes inside a home is uncharacteristic of a burglary and may suggest the suspects were familiar with the home and its security system. And that is something that is coming up again and again and again, that there's something hinky about this case. There's something atypical, whether it's a kidnapping or burglary, that doesn't seem natural or normal. And so in the context of the perpetrator spending 41 minutes inside the home, Williams says, that leads me to believe that they were well aware of the cameras and those cameras were inoperable in that home. Now, they either knew about the cameras from first-hand experience, in other words, from being directly on the property, or someone else who was familiar with that told them, such as, well, a family member, a housekeeper, a gardener. All of this suggests that something personal is going on and that we might be dealing with a targeted attack. And I must say, from the beginning, I thought this was a targeted attack. The question is, does this have to do with money or not? I don't think it's a kidnapping for money, but it is possible money or wealth plays into this in some way, somehow. I do feel whoever committed this crime was in some way jealous or envious of Nancy's wealth, and by implication, Savannah's as well. I also feel like the abductor was aware of Nancy's connection to Savannah. I don't think it's a coincidence that this happened just as Savannah was supposed to leave the country to cover the Winter Olympics. Now, who might have that sort of insight, that kind of inside knowledge? Well, the same kind of person who would know about the cameras and the inside of the home.
An hour and a half ago, we had a sheriff's deputy come up, park in front of the home. That caught everyone's attention. Now, not too long ago, within the last 20 minutes or so, we saw an unmarked vehicle with law enforcement drive up. The two spoke, they got back in their cars, and then we saw yet a third member of law enforcement walk up.
So there have been a number of new developments in the Nancy Guthrie case. The cops have searched inside what could be a septic tank. Some folks say that they saw cops using a metal detector and speculated that they were searching for a pacemaker. I don't know about that. This is almost certainly because they were searching the pit underneath as a potential disposal site. In other words, searching for human remains. Have a look at this headline. Authorities search Nancy Guthrie's septic tank at her Arizona property after disappearance. Now, suffice it to say, they didn't find anything, but this does indicate the headspace of the investigators. In other words, where investigators' minds are at this point. Then there's also this statement from Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos, when he says, I get briefed on a daily basis, sometimes multiple times, of different search and rescue operations, that's in terms of this case, and rarely do we ever call out homicide. But this one came across with some information that was concerning to me, that I just thought we need to do this from two angles. I need to do the search and rescue team and let them do their mission. But I also need to bring in my homicide team because there's something that's not right here. And I need them to start the criminal side of the investigation. Now, I think what this shows is an acknowledgement from very early on that the cops are finding the whole kidnapping aspect kind of hinky. We saw the same thing in the Ramsey case. They investigated it as a kidnapping even though things didn't add up to them, and weren't they ultimately correct in that assessment? Aren't the local cops correct in this case as well, in terms of being dubious about it being a kidnapping? Unfortunately, where we are right now, day 8 going into day 9, the police have essentially admitted that they have nothing. And in regards to that, have a gander at this post from the Pima County Sheriff's Department. When I last looked at it, it had over 500,000 views. The Nancy Guthrie investigation is ongoing. Follow-up continues at multiple locations. No suspects, no persons of interest, and no vehicles have been identified. No scheduled press briefings. If any significant developments occur in the case, a press conference will be called. Wow, that is pretty incredible. Not even a person of interest identified 1 week, more than a week after the incident. And that brings us to a very interesting potential area in this case, and it was brought up by a neighbor, and this is the number 3 clue that we all missed. The neighbor observed how clean and white Nancy's roof was and suggested it has probably recently been repainted. Have a look at this from the New York Post. Guthrie's neighbor Laura Gargano said that she tipped off the police to investigate the roof because of how clean it looked compared to other homes in the neighborhood. I did notice on an aerial shot that it looked like a roof had been recoated recently, Gargano told CNN on Friday. When you recoat your roof, it gets dirty pretty quickly, and we've had a lot of rain the previous 3 weeks, so it would be normal for a roof to be a little dirty. Gargano suggested that detectives check on the contractors who did the work before Guthrie's disappearance. If you're looking for surface people that visited, that's just one thing to check, she added. It could be nothing, but I noticed it. Now, I do agree that could be a very good area to investigate, day workers who spend some time at the property. If we verify that what the neighbor is saying, certainly from this view, the neighbor's roofs look just as white as Nancy's, if you ask me. Uber drivers who delivered food or dropped Nancy off recently might be someone else to look at. If someone found out that Nancy was related to Savannah, that might prompt a Google search leading to sort of a look-see at their social media, and someone might not like what they see, or what they saw. And don't forget the psychological mechanism that is often at play in these sorts of cases.
What does he do, this man you seek?
He kills women.
No, that is incidental.
Besides the committing of this crime, what is this person likely doing in the run-up to committing this crime?
Frustrations.
No, he covets. That is his nature.
And how do we begin to covet?
Now, we begin by coveting what we see every day.
And how could someone see Nancy every day, see her pool, see her car, see her on her phone, see her inside her home, see what and who she is online? Well, a contractor would fit that profile, wouldn't they? And they might not like what they saw if they had a different political persuasion. But I do think we could be dealing with a blue-collar worker, perhaps even ex-law enforcement or security guard. Someone who was a contractor, someone who had access to the property perhaps inside and out on a daily basis for a number of days. And it is up to law enforcement to identify those individuals and cross them off the list. Someone else who might covet what they see every day is a relative or friend of the family. But this is where it gets tricky. Why have the Sheriff's Department said there are no suspects, persons of interest, or vehicles that have been identified? Surely if it was someone that at close quarters, they would have identified them by now. Surely someone would have noticed someone like that and told the police about that by now. In any event, it's day 9. We'll watch for further developments in terms of this case. For now, I'm not going to take it further than that. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.